and possibly will go into today. A lot of us are asking many questions, and I don't think this is just one issue. I think it's a multiplicity of things happening with track and field and possibly other sports that we need to take a look at. But I believe with this situation, which is not new, we've always had athletes competing who's left Jamaica and competed for other countries. I think we need to ask why. I think the why must be looked at to fix the problem, or to make sure that it doesn't happen as often, because in this globalization, I believe that it's always going to happen with competitiveness. I believe, it is still an amateur sport. We still have the amateur status in track and field. And so I'm not sure why we're surprised. And when it comes to field events, it has always been the case where field events, athletes have been paid less. And so persons are going to grab opportunities. It's just that simple. But I believe, looking at our issue, we need to look at a few things in Jamaica. What is it that we're doing? We say sports is big business, but is it big business here? Do we look at it as a big business? Do we value the sport, track and field? Or do we feel that, well, Jamaica is a sporting factory. We churn out athletes ever so often, so we'll always have athletes because we are Likaba Talawa and we will always have good athletes. Is that the mindset of the people who are running the sport? Should we look at who are the people running our sport, and is it that they have the interests of heart for the athletes? And so we need to look at some of those things. Are we placing people who understand? Are we placing good managers? Are we looking at the welfare of our athletes in a sustainable way? What are some of the things that we could do to make a huge change, especially for our field eventers? Our athletes have been crying out for many years. I remember James, or Jumper, back when I was competing in the 1990s. It was just him, and then others came. And so we have to really take stock. We need to take a look at how we run sport in Jamaica, how we see our athletes in Jamaica, how do we value them? And I think that, can mitigate against some of these things that we see happening. Sometimes it's not always about the cash, but it's how you care for our athletes. And so we need to take a holistic look at what it is that we're doing. How are we developing the sport? How are we treating the athletes as far as welfare is concerned? And I think those are some of the things. Let me also say the sponsorship. Jamaica believes in jumping on the wagon when the wagon is already in train. And that is a problem I've always had. Companies don't necessarily see sports as a big business and to use that as a tool to advertise their product until you become that star, which I guess is all over the world, is when people get endorsements. So I can understand that. But I think we really need to take stock. We need to take a look at, do we really see sports as a big business in Jamaica? Do we really see track and field as that sport, as the sport? And it is the sport. And do we take it serious enough to value the athletes who are competing and to give them the necessary tools in order for them to excel, to progress? We need to take a look at those things. And we can't be upset with athletes who decide to make a decision, whether it's a financial decision or whatever the decision is. We have to look at our own situation. They have to take stock and look at their own situation and what it is how they feel. Track and field is, some people will last 10 years, some people last 3 years, some people last 5 years. And you have to look at that. How old am I? Where am I going? What am I trying to do in the sport? And so there are many questions. And so I think we shouldn't bash our athletes. We should really look at our program in Jamaica and ask ourselves, do we place the best people in the position to really run the sport and to make it what it should be? What it should be. We've been asking that question for many, many years. And I recall when I, came out and spoke about athletes not getting the assistance, athletes not getting the health care that's needed when they're injured. And at the time, Minister Grange came up with, I mentioned about athletes insurance, and Minister Grange has started looking at insurance for athletes. I was a part of the committee, and I was very excited about that. Just something small like insurance that you can think of, something like that, to make sure that the athletes are protected once they suffer an injury. And then, of course, the new administration came in and finished that. And now we have insurance for athletes. I think Minister Grange has also added a few things to that. And so we really need to look at who are the people managing our athletes? Who are the people looking out for athletes? Look at me, an Olympian, and I literally have to beg a ticket to go into the stadium or pay for a ticket to go into the stadium. When I look at the athletes in the United States of America, most of the athletes who competed with me during that time in the 1980s and 90s, they are traveling with the United States team. They are officials. They have different roles and functions. You know why? Because they understand the sport. They have been a part of the sport. And so we must ask ourselves, not that I want any position, but we must ask ourselves the question, do we have the right people in place? Who are the people running our sport in bodies? Who are the people looking after our people? Who are the people looking after our athletes? I think we need to ask those important questions this morning.